Hey guys, Johnnie Ferro here, and this is the third in a series of videos about how I get my tone. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the strings I use and the picks I use. Now, strings might be a little more obvious. Obviously, different metals, different types of strings, different metals will give you different tonalities. Some metals are brighter than others. Some are a little bit fatter and warmer sounding. So I'm going to go over that, and then with picks, the type of pick and the thickness of the pick you use also will affect your tone. So I'm actually going to start with that. The picks I use are made by Dunlop. They're the Dunlop Tortex brand picks. These are 1.14 millimeter thick. It's a pretty thick pick. It's a little bendy, but it's not very flexible. Great for rhythm playing, great for leads as well. I like this pick. I like it because I can really feel that it's there, and I do tend to get a fatter sound out of my guitars using this pick. It's also really great for rhythm playing. I do a lot of rhythm playing. I also do some lead playing, but I'm more of a rhythm guy, honestly. So this pick is particularly great for that, for the heavier attack of rhythm playing. And then tonally, the sound is just a much warmer sound. Now, if I used a really thin pick, they have picks that are super thin and bend really like crazy. Those give you a brighter sound, a little bit more of like a clicky sound. I like to think of it as, just from the pick kind of like running and grazing along the strings and kind of bending as it does. This, you don't get that. It's a much fatter sounding pick. Okay. Now, strings I use for my electric guitars, and I'm just going to preface this by saying I've recently actually tried a bunch of different brands of strings over the last year. I've been I've been using these particular strings that I do use for a long time. And everything I've tried outside of them, don't get me wrong, I've tried strings that were great, but they've never been the total package the way that these are. And it's funny because they're not a particularly expensive brand. They're the basic brand. These are the GHS guitar boomers. And I use gauge 10, so the high E is a 10 that goes to 46 gauge for the low E. Now, these are nickel round strings, nickel round wound strings, I should say. And what that means is that some strings are flat wound, some are round wound. They just have a rounded feel to them as opposed to a flatter feel. It affects how they play and the feel of them on your fingertips, how their versatility and everything. I find them very versatile. Their tone is great. I don't want to call it totally middle of the road, but it does have, it's not super bright. It's not incredibly fat either. Just a really nice, versatile tone that's good for a lot of scenarios. And the thing about them too is that, I do play with a pretty heavy attack. Meaning I tend to hit the strings harder, on the harder side. Not as hard as I used to be because I'm more refined over the years, but still a pretty heavy attack. A rhythm player at heart. These strings take a beating pretty well, and I don't really ever break strings with these. One of the things I've found with a lot of the brands I've tried recently is that tonally they're great, but I've broken strings on them. They just don't hold up to the beating I give them. These guys do, and they always have. I've been using GHS boomers probably for, 15 years now. I think I've been using GHS, and it's like that girlfriend you can't get rid of, because they really are just great strings, and they've always taken care of me. And so, I'm kind of remarrying myself to them, I guess, as of late, because I really just don't find anything that compares to them all around. It doesn't mean I'll never try another set of strings again, but these have just been kind of my warhorse, tried and true, never failed me. And they are a big part of the tone I get, and they interact with my amplifier in such a way that I get the tone that I get. They're very much a part of that equation. Now for acoustic guitar strings, again, I don't use any crazy expensive fancy strings. I just have never felt the need to. These are Martin 8020 bronze strings. It's the light gauge, so they go from a 12 to a 54. And they have a bit bright of a sound, which I like for an acoustic. They really cut through well, and on the two acoustic guitars I use, the two guitars I use, one has a bit of a bigger sound, bigger body, the other one's a bit more trebly sounding. But with these strings, it really, for whatever reason, however the metal is interacting with them, it captures the best in those guitars. It doesn't take away from the low end of my bigger body guitar, and it doesn't take away from the high end and the trebly sounds of my other guitar, my Ibanez and my Guild. So I just really love those strings. Again, the Martin 8020 bronze, because they really do give me all the tonal bandwidth, so to speak, that I need to get the different tones for the different styles that I do. They're great. I've used them in the studio for recording. Obviously, I've played live with them. And again, they've just always sounded great. They last. Again, these two strings I'm going over, these two brands, they last. They endure. They don't break. and they maintain their tone throughout pretty much the entirety of their life, which just blows me away. Because, you know, again, you can buy strings that are 3, 4, 5, even, you know, in some cases 10 times the amount, that are special metals. They're gold core, gold plated. They have a coating on them. And don't get me wrong, those strings sound great. But, you know, I think these I paid like $4 a set for on juststrings.com, which I'll put that website in the description below. I highly recommend juststrings.com. Great place to buy strings at a wholesale price. And I think these are like maybe $5 or $6 a set. You know, so I'll just buy a bunch of them, as opposed to paying anywhere from 10 to like 30 or $40 a set, depending on what you get for the other strings. So anyway, there you go. Those are the strings that I use and the picks that I use to get my tone. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this was helpful, enlightening. If it bored the hell out of you, let me know that, and I can just, you know, not do another video that's like that. That's totally fine. And yeah, links to everything in the description below, so you can see, you know, what strings I'm getting, where you can get them. And again, I'm Johnnie Ferro. Thanks so much for watching. #YT100, and I'll see you on the next video. Mwah!